Fox News alert. Sources confirming to Fox News that the Department of Justice review of the Russia probe, now being led by U.S. Attorney John Durham from Connecticut, is now a criminal investigation. That breaking news coming almost simultaneously as Inspector General Michael Horowitz has revealed his report on possible FISA abuse is nearing completion. What does that all mean? Join us right now with reaction from Dallas, Republican Congressman John Radcliffe. John, good morning to you.
Morning, Steve. Good to be with you.
It's good to have you. You see a direct connection between the lead story that first broke on the New York Times yesterday, that apparently now this is a criminal investigation, with the fact that Mr. Horowitz has announced, yeah, my report, which is about as thick as a phone book, is coming out very shortly, and it's essentially going to lay out the roadmap why there is a criminal investigation now.
I do. This is not a coincidence that it's happening at the same time. Inspector General Michael Horowitz's report looks into potential FISA abuse. Steve, you remember that Republicans put out a memo that said that Obama administration officials in the Department of Justice and the FBI appeared to have abused the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act and court to obtain surveillance on Carter Page. Democrats put out a memo saying that's a bunch of nonsense. The FBI and the Department of Justice did everything right, and how dare Republicans malign good people like Peter Strzok and Bruce Orr. And so we're going to find out who was telling the truth. I think that these two things are related, that the work done by Michael Horowitz could result in criminal referrals. Even though the report hasn't been released, the referrals could already have been made. But regardless, John Durham had to let Michael Horowitz finish this work, and I think when people read the Inspector General's impending report, it'll be very clear why the Durham investigation has now moved to a criminal probe, which will allow him to impanel a grand jury and bring in witnesses and ultimately perhaps bring criminal charges.
Right, and that could be why, there are reports that apparently a number of these people who think they could be involved in this have hired attorneys. Now, Congressman, not only will it show, whether any laws were broken at the Department of Justice or the FBI or, coroner's cut or anything like that, but it could also show whether or not there was coordination between the agencies, or if there was coordination perhaps with the Obama White House.
All of those things are possible, as you know, based on text messages that we've seen and testimony that is there. Look, there's been one inconsistency after another in terms of sworn testimony and documents that have been produced. Just as one example, Fusion GPS founder Glenn Simpson, the person behind the Steele dossier, testified before Congress that he'd never met Bruce Orr until Thanksgiving, after the election. Bruce Orr told me in sworn testimony that he and Mr. Simpson met in August, months before the election, to talk about the dossier. So someone very clearly is not telling the truth. And there's a lot of low-hanging fruit there that John Durham and Michael Horowitz have been looking at. Again, at the end of the day, I think that those of us that have said that this was not a bunch of nonsense are going to be vindicated in both of the reports that are forthcoming.
But, Congressman, the New York Times says the criminal investigation raises alarms that the president is using the Department of Justice to go after his enemies.
Well, the Department of Justice was used to go after enemies, but it was in the prior administration. That's what the focus of this is. All of these things, all of these questions began to occur before Donald Trump was ever elected president, when he was candidate Trump. And so the things that we're looking at took place and can be verified before Donald Trump ever put his hand on the Bible and became our president. The fact that we need to look at the origins of this, and someone like Bill Barr, was troubled by the lack of a predicate to investigate Donald Trump as a candidate, is really what has lit the fuse behind this. And many of us, Trey Gowdy, Devin Nunes, myself, and others have been saying, look, what happened here is the Obama administration took a vital national security tool, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act,
right,
and they misused it to surveil for political reasons. And I think the Inspector General's report is going to say whether or not we were right when we raised those questions.
Well, if that is proven in a court of law, that would be just stunning. It would be one of the biggest scandals of all time. Congressman John Ratcliffe, a member of the House Judiciary Committee, joins us today from beautiful Dallas, Texas. Congressman, thank you very much. Have a good weekend.
Thank you, Steve.